Well, all right. Well, hello, hello. My name is LaQuita Parks, and this is the power of your story. Wow, it has been a week, and today is Thursday. So I am just coming off the heels of a she said yes to herself unapologetically summit. And it was a 2-day summit. And man, when I tell you, it was absolutely amazing. So I am LaQuita Parks, and I am your host. I am also the CEO and founder of PayProV Publishing. And PayProV means Pain, Progress, Victory, because I believe without pain, there is no progress. And without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. And I am excited to be here tonight for this episode. And I have a special guest with me. And he is none other than Mr. Robert Brooks. Something got caught in my throat. What is that about? Mr. Brooks, how are you? Oh, wait. Now you're not going to talk?
I'm super fantastic. How are you?
Okay, you know what? It always has to be one, and it has to be one in the bunch. Mr. Brooks, I bet you was the kid. You was the bad kid in school. Was you the kid that got in trouble all the time?
Oh no, I was the bully tamer,
You was the bully tamer. What's the bully tamer?
like Ghostbuster.
So you used to keep the bullies off the people.
That's right.
Okay, all right. So would some have labeled you as a bully?
No, just a bully tamer.
Just a bully tamer. Okay. Well, Mr. Brooks, could you introduce yourself to my audience so they'll know who you are? They'll know who the bully tamer is.
Hello, audience. My name is Robert Brooks.
Okay, is that all? So listen, y'all. Sometimes I have to have a guest who is just not as cooperative as some. So this is my guest for 2022. Okay. So before we close the year out, we still have a little few more weeks going, but I figured I'd shake it up a little bit and bring somebody who's just not gonna do what I asked. So we're gonna have a good time this hour on this segment. Okay. So I'm gonna try this again. So, Mr. Brooks, could you tell the people a little bit about yourself, please?
I'm Robert Brooks. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm retired.
Retired from where?
Uh, Atlanta Public School.
Oh, okay, okay. So how's retirement?
Retirement is one day at a time.
One day at a time. That's all we got. Somebody said one day at a time, sweet Jesus. Isn't that what somebody said? They wrote a song about everything. Did
Yeah, they
you
want.
know, did you know, Mr. Brooks, that somebody took my life story and put it in a song? Did you know that?
Uh, I don't know. They must have been desperate.
They they were desperate because they was looking, they didn't have nothing else to write about. So they listen, don't come on my show and start no mess here.
I've just said, you asked the question. I'm not a talkative person, so
So I had to carry the show. You're not gonna talk.
well, I'll talk when it becomes necessary.
Okay, okay. Well, so they wrote a song, and it's really about my life. It's called "Why Not Me," and I listened to this song, and it's "Why Not Me." Now, don't be yawning like you bored. Now, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not your bedtime yet. It's not 8 o'clock, so don't yawn. Don't do it, please. So it's the song is called "Why Not Me." Okay, and I love this song because it says "Why Not Me," and it starts out by saying, "When I look in the mirror, I see a girl beautifully broken, perfectly flawed." And then it goes on to say, "I don't even know how I made it this far." And I ask myself questions like, why did I do it? Why did this happen to me? And then I said to myself, you can get through it. You just have to believe what I do now, have to make it all count. So why not me? I'm the perfect person to go through this storm. It won't break me. It won't kill me. I'll move on and I'll never see this place anymore because my faith is getting stronger every day. Now, you've known me since I was knee high to a butterfly. So, don't that sound like somebody wrote a story about my life?
It sounds like it.
So I love that. I love that song. I love that song because it's you know, I love music and but I like the words. I listen to the words. So I don't like you steady yarning now. We live and we broadcast all over the world and they see you yarning. So when they look, they can say, what's wrong with that man? Is he sleepy? Are you sleepy?
No, when I get ready to go to sleep, I have a lullaby.
Oh. So it's not lullaby time, right?
No, not a lullaby.
So, so Mr. Brooks, what did you think about that? Somebody took a song and took my story. They didn't even know me. They took my story and they wrote a song about my life.
Well, that's what most songwriters do, is that they write and sing about life. Uh, the everybody already know that if you play a country song backwards, uh, the man gets his wife back and his dog and his children.
But if you pay it forward, the dog gone, the wife gone, the children gone. But if you yeah, you put it in reverse.
Right.
I like that. I like that. So, Mr. Brooks, what do you what's the song you like? What's one of your favorite songs?
I don't think I have a favorite song. Uh, Heaven's on the Other Side. I think I like that
Oh, I like that. I like that. I don't even know it, but I like it. Just the words alone say a lot to me. Heaven's on the other side. So Mr. Brooks, I've had you on my show before, and you're an author, aren't you? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're not an author. You're a writer.
Yes, I'm a writer. I have to sell 1 million copies before I claim authorship.
Okay, okay. So all of us who've never sold a million copies, we can only say we're writers.
Right. If you haven't made the New York bestseller,
Okay, so I don't care what he says, y'all. I have several books published. So I am an author, and an author is one that has published a book. So the definition of author does not say that you have to have sold a million copies, unless it's in the book of Brooks. Is that in the book of Brooks?
now it's in the book of authors.
The book of authors. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Brooks, what was the book? I know you wrote two books. One called Words of Meaning, and then you wrote another one called Rock Bottom. Now, I know that I published those books, and they were great books. So, I had a conversation with somebody, and I'm always having conversations with people because I believe that there's somebody waiting on the other side of your story so they can get healed to their story, get healing from their story. So I had a conversation. We talked about the prodigal son and finding himself in the hog pen. Now I like that story because it has a lot of meaning to it. And you decided to put that in a modern day for people, simple-minded people like me to understand the story. When you leave home, you go into the far country and you get what you get.
That's exactly right. Well, not just leave home, but the circumstances and the context of which you left, of how you left home.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the prodigal son left home in a negative context, thinking that he was ready for the world and he didn't know anything about the world. And
Mm-hmm.
so he left no training uh, to tell him that the world will chew you up and spit you out. And so he left on his own with his own wisdom, which was not wisdom, but it was ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that ignorance led to stupid mistakes or stupid choices, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's how he ended up at rock bottom.
Now you said he left home without training. So he left home. So let me ask this question. He left home without training. So do you think if he had stayed, he would have gotten the training? Then he would have been better prepared to leave home?
Yes, you have to prepare at home to meet the world. You can't go out there and meet the world unprepared. Otherwise, you end up at rock bottom.
Which is
because the
what a lot of
world,
our children are doing. A lot
yeah,
of
the world
parents are
doesn't,
releasing their children.
the world doesn't know you. They don't care about you. And as they used to say, and I guess it's still apropos, uh, it's a dog eat dog world.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need home training. And I know that's a strange word. We haven't heard it since we came over. And when I say came over, I mean since we came over from the other side of the track onto this side of the track where
Mm-hmm.
the other folks are. And so you must have that training. Otherwise, uh, you'll end up in a hog pen.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares about you one way or the other. And so, and the world is no respecter of person, geography, ethnicity, whatever. It doesn't care. Gender, uh, rich or poor, they will still chew you up, spit you out, and leave you in the hog pen of sin. And you end up at rock bottom, as the lost son did.
Mm. I thought it was interesting too that when he went to his father and said, "Hey, I want my inheritance," his father didn't say, "Okay, no, you got to wait until you get 18 or 25 or 26." He just said, "Here you go." So you're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm off of mute now.
So he didn't say, no, you can't have it yet. Just wait. He just said, "Okay, here you go."
Well, when you really think about that, what I said earlier seems to contract be in contrast with that, at odds. I think that he gave him his inheritance simply because he had instructed him about life and about the inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when you tell people something, they don't believe, as my grandmama used to say, some people don't believe
Fat
sugar.
meat greasy.
Right. That family agrees, yeah. And so his father more than likely was a responsible father, and he had instructed him about life. And so, but that's not good enough for children. Parents are used to that. If you've been a parent long enough, you know that your children will listen to everybody but you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you really don't know what you're talking about. And so, but they'll listen to Miss Janie across the street, but they won't listen to you. And when they go out there in the world, and so the father felt comfortable enough, and that I had given him the instruction, uh, of the roadmap or the GPS of life, and he's on his own now. I can't live his life for him. He's of age, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the age may have been.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't force him to remain in my household. And so he gave him what was his inheritance, and said bye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so and like I say, we know the rest of the story.
Right.
But
I
that happens in life all over, regardless of the genre of your environment. Your environment, it could be work, church, home, neighborhood, whatever. You just uh, got to the job yesterday, but you know everything that the boss man know that's been there 35 years.
right. Right. Because he don't know nothing.
Right here, know anything.
Yeah, I like that. I always think sometimes when people know so much, you got to be quiet and let them just go ahead. I used to say, when I used to do the work in the corporate America, and I used to do the accounting, and I used to say, well, we can do this or we can't do that, and it felt like I would get resistance, and so one day I just said, okay, and I just said, okay, we can do it. That we'll do it this way. And then it became a mess. And somebody said, well, why'd you do it this way? I said, sometimes you have to show people that their way won't work. It doesn't work. So he decided that the father decided, you know what, let me let this child go on and let him find out for himself, because I'm not, he not hearing me. And sometimes our children don't hear us, but they hear the world in the form of abuse from the world.
Right. That just about sums it up. And the child go out looking for someone like themselves.
Hmm.
They pool all their stupid, and
They got they got the stupid committee.
yeah, and they pool it all, and recognize and not recognizing that what this is not working.
Hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, when it's not working, they are the last one to come to the side or to admit my way ain't working.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, and they continue to try until they end up in the hog pen. And that's when the young man recognized, he said, you know what, my way ain't, this ain't working out that well for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I need to try my father's way.
Hmm. Hmm.
So and sometimes, and it is a blessing when people recognize that their way is really not working,
Hmm.
and that they return to that which they rejected. That takes a lot of growing up, a lot of wisdom, and especially a lot of humbleness to
Hmm.
admit to admit I was 100% wrong, and now I want to try your way.
Hmm. You know, I like that. I like it's a parable, but I love it because as with the show, the power of your story. Here we have a parable about the prodigal son and talk about the power of your story. And I love that story because there are so many lessons in that story. Not only from the son getting, the father giving him his inheritance and he going on out. And what you did in the book is that you kind of put it modern day. So he went out to the nightclubs and the Hulu clubs and whatever he did on the way to the hog pen. So he didn't leave his father's house, and I think that's important for people to understand. He didn't leave his father's house and fall right into the hog pen. It was a
Right,
process. He had a process of getting to the hog pen, but
right.
he eventually got there, and that says, what's that you say? Sin will take you further than you want to go and keep you longer than you intended to stay.
And cost you more than you're able to pay to
Cost
get
you more
back.
than you're able to pay to get back. So he didn't go out, and we don't know how long it was before he ended up in the hog pen.
Right.
It could have been days, it could have been months, it could have been years. But what I liked about the story is when he came to himself and he was like, "Hey, you know what? I'm laying here in this hog pen. I could be a servant in my father's house and live better than this." But as he headed back to his father's house, his father said, "Hey, I see my son coming." So his father was looking for him. So I don't know whether if he was looking for him because that's just what he was doing, or he was expecting that this boy done gone out here in the world and he probably in the hog pen, so he'll be back soon.
Right. The wisdom of the father knew that uh, he had planted the right seeds in his mind,
Mm-hmm.
and that sooner or later he would realize his mistake, and so he kept looking for him. Well, I don't really like to call it a mistake. When we do stuff purposely, I don't know why we call them a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He purposely left home, purposely went to the far country, and the far country took him to the hog pen. He didn't purposely go to the hog pen. Uh, all that other stuff that he was doing led him to the hog pen.
Mm-hmm.
But the father knew that he knew better, and he let him experience life for himself. Sometimes you have to let folks experience life for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And as I write in the book, is that sometimes parents keep interrupting. Uh, God has planned a meeting with your child at rock bottom, but you keep interrupting the meeting. Therefore, your child don't ever change
Mm-hmm.
because he or she can't change by themselves. They need the help of someone else, and God is waiting at rock bottom to help them change. But if
Mm-hmm.
we keep interrupting, they won't meet God. And if you don't meet God, you won't change.
Yeah, I like that. Talk about a play on words. I remember, so I mentor young people, and I remember telling some parents, you cannot be your child's friend, because I'm not gonna respect my friend. Because see, my friend can't come tell me what to do. My friend can't tell me it's time to eat, kind of go to bed, clean up. My friend can't do that. So if you're playing with your child, and you all you they there is a very, very thin line, and so the line is so thin, it's so easy to cross that line. So they don't know, but when you do that, it's like, okay, well, I have parents all the time. Well, I don't want to, I don't want to, um, I don't want to hurt my child's feelings. I don't want my child to cry. And all of that takes them on a slippery slope, I guess, to the hog pen.
But right, it takes you to the hog pen. But like you say, there are many lessons within that, and storytelling uh, was Jesus' number one method for teaching.
Mhm.
Greatest storyteller that they have ever been, and
Mhm.
I believe that the reason that he chose stories is to give the people that's listening an opportunity to examine themselves, uh, to take an inventory of
Mhm.
what they was hearing, and then make the application to their own lives.
Mhm.
And if you want to capture the attention of an audience, you tell a story.
Right.
Uh, I remember telling a story one time, and someone challenged me to write a captivating story with 6 words,
Mhm.
and and I thought for a few minutes, and I said, "For sale, baby shoes, never worn." Those are 6 words.
Yes, it is.
If you have a pulse, that should stop you in your tracks.
Yep.
For sale, baby shoes, never worn. Uh, There's a whole lot of story in those 6 words.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You can take it. You can take that anywhere you want to take it.
Right.
And
And so,
I like that. It is important, because the parables, they're lessons throughout it, it takes somebody who is purposely trying not to get it, to not
oh
get it.
yeah, right.
But
It's,
there are some who not interested in getting it, so we won't see it.
no, you missed the story. What it does is it gives an opportunity to learn from another person's experience, especially, and it doesn't have to be a negative experience. It can be a positive experience, uh, because it can shape, strengthen, or challenge our opinions and values. And
Mm,
when Jesus told stories, and that's what he was trying to do, was to shape the hearer's value. So when the story catches our attention and and uh, and engages us, we are more likely to absorb the message and the meaning within the story than if the message was presented simply in facts and figures. Uh,
mhm.
for instance, the prodigal son just could have been told this young man asked for his inheritance and he wanted to leave, and his dad gave it to him. He left. Okay, in the story, those are some facts.
Right.
Okay, well, what happened? You know, so what happened after that is what's important. And so the goal of telling your story to give it power is communication. Is through communication is to influence your target audience to
Mhm.
change their current attitude, belief, knowledge, and behavior.
Mhm.
Uh, y'all have time for this?
Yeah, we got time. We got
Oh,
50
okay,
more minutes.
okay.
I'm
And
glad you finally started talking, so we talking about something that you know something about, huh?
yeah. Luke chapter 10. There's some smart mouth dudes talking to Jesus, and they're trying to trap him. And in verse 29, uh, a lawyer, not a lawyer like a criminal lawyer, but a lawyer of the word of God. He understood God's word. Asked Jesus a question: Who is my neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jesus never answered anybody's question directly. Okay, I have to tell you a story. He said a certain man went down the road to Jericho and he fell among the thieves and they robbed and beat him up and he left him a mess. So he was in Atlanta on Auburn Avenue
Mm-hmm.
and in the hood. And the hood
Wait,
rats.
wait. So for those of you who don't know Auburn Avenue, that's in Atlanta, Georgia, and some parts, most parts, all parts of Auburn Avenue is considered the hood. So you may continue your story, Mr. Brooks.
Okay, thank you for helping me clear up the story.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Jesus said, this man fell among. Okay, wait a minute. I just asked you who is my neighbor. If you listen, I'll tell you who your neighbor is.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that word. What I like about the story is that there are uh, some characters, some a plot, robbers, a victim, and two self-centered people. One of them was a preacher, and the other one was a Levite.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one that was a philanthropist. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the man is lying on Auburn Avenue, bleeding to death, and this preacher and the Levite passed by on the other side of the street. And then here comes another man, which is called a Samaritan, and he's a philanthropist. He jumps over in the ditch with the man, cleans him up, and then put him on his Maserati, takes him to the Holiday Inn, and
Wait a
tells the
minute.
man,
Wait a minute. If he got, if he has a Maserati, he is not taking him to the Holiday Inn. He's going to the he's going to the
whose story is
to
this?
the Marriott. He going to the Embassy Suites or something. Not the Holiday Inn. Not
The
the
rich,
Holiday Inn. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
the rich garden. Okay. Anyway, he takes care of the man. But the moral of the story is, I think that what Jesus is trying to tell us, along with telling these guys. And Jesus asks, which one was the neighbor? And the lawyer said, I suppose the one that helped the man. Now he didn't want to come out and give credit. Now, see, he had to say I suppose because he saw himself somewhere in the story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know if he saw himself walking on the other side, if he was a robber or what, but he didn't see himself as the philanthropist. He
Mm-hmm.
said, I suppose the
Mm-hmm.
man that helped him. And Jesus said, you suppose right. You got the story right. So what is Jesus trying to say? Jesus has said that there are three philosophies in this story. One is what's yours is mine, and I'll take it. That's the philosophy of the robber.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The philosophy of the Levite and the preacher is what's mine is mine, and I'll keep it.
Mm-hmm.
The philosophy of the philanthropist is what's mine is yours, and I'll share it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the crux of the matter of the story that Jesus is telling.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of power being in of your story having power is that you reach the audience that you're telling your story to,
Mm-hmm.
and trust that they will see themselves somewhere in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Jesus told stories. Every time you ask Jesus a question, he tells you a story.
You know what? I love everything that everything. I say this all the time. I believe that God has equipped us with everything that we need, that He needs us to do when whatever position that we're in. And I think those parables also give you an insight into who you are and what you need to be doing, and without excuses. So here we are talking about the Good Samaritan, where there are people, as you read in that story, if you see yourself other than the Good Samaritan, then you need to make some changes.
Right.
So I like that. I like the way that you string your stories, and it's all about communicating. Do you remember this book? Can you see this?
I see something about it. I can't make it out. My screen not big enough.
So this book is the 7 steps to effective communication.
Okay, yeah,
You
yeah,
remember that? And
right.
and so we know that communication is a biblical concept. So we know that that's where it comes from, the beginning. It comes from listening and sharing and hearing. And that's a whole big key of what's missing in the society. Communication with each other, communication church, communication in the world, definitely communication in schools. So what was why did you write all kinds of things? Why this piece, the prodigal son, why that piece, rock bottom?
I really don't know what motivated me to write. It was basically a series of sermons that I was doing uh, on the prodigal son, and I looked around on my computer and I found all these different messages that I had on there. So I thought, well, can I put these together uh, in a book form?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because that's how sermons are. They're like a book, and you can put
Mm-hmm.
them together. And so I thought I would put it together, and I wanted to put a twist on it, as you say, 21st century,
Yeah.
uh, so that it would fit,
Mm-hmm.
because I recognize that telling the right story at the right time has the power to illuminate our character, and it has power to cause self-examination.
Mm-hmm. Now
And so,
you said at the right time. Why is that important? Telling the right, now you can tell the right story at the wrong time,
right, yeah,
and
yeah,
that can cause some problems. So why is that important?
it's important, and you won't know how to do that unless you have studied human nature or you know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
There are sometimes that the prodigal son story won't work depending on the audience. Okay, for instance, if I was going to speak to a bunch of senior citizens, I don't need to tell that story. Okay,
Right, that they left home, the prodigal son, and they ended up in the hog pen. So,
right, right,
so if you were looking for a story, and I like that you are so in tune to the Bible, and you're learn it, as they say, you learn it. What if you what story? Because the Bible has a story, and there's a parable for everybody, and no matter what your walk of life is. So I know it's almost your bedtime, but you can stop yarning now. The world is probably looking. They're gonna be sending me messages saying, "Are you boring him? Why does he keep yarning?"
now I'm getting my next breath to finish out the program.
Okay. So what is the what parable would you give? But you know what? I want to talk about rock bottom. What lesson would they find? Is there anything in that lesson that you can give from the rock bottom? Because they could be the parent.
Exactly. I was just thinking they could be the parent, grandparent, whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
and they could identify right away. They would say, "Boy, that remind me of that hard head boy I had," you know. And they probably could tell a story of their own, about a prodigal son that they had, and there there are a plethora, a bevy of senior citizens that had a rock bottom son or daughter or whatever.
Or they could have been the rock bottom.
Yeah, right, right. Could have been themselves, Uh, and so the story is to illuminate uh, who you are.
Hmm.
You're not to look at the son per se.
Hmm.
He's just a piece in the story. It just happened to be his story, but his story may be your story,
Mm-hmm.
and so you may be able to identify. But I would tend to use that story among younger generation more so,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that they can get a picture of the world and what
Right.
happened to you in the far country. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the far country really doesn't have to be any further than your mind. You know, you're in your own mindset
Right.
instead of the direction of people with wisdom. You're in a far country when you only think of what you want to do. That's a far place to be. It
Mm-hmm.
it, uh, it reminds me of the cliche. It's a terrible thing to waste the mind. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. One of them. Yeah, I think a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And when you waste your mind, you end up in the far country. And after the far country, see, everybody who goes to the far country don't come back.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
some people don't make it back.
Right. I'm sitting here and I wanted to read an excerpt from Rock Bottom, and one of my favorite parts, and several of it. But I want to share this part. You said, I find the far country is the place where no one knows or cares to know you. It's the place where only what you have to give is important. The far country is that place you continuously return, searching for that lasting relationship. You have either joined yourself to several residents or brought them home with you on several trips there. Once you attach yourself to him, her, the far country character showed up and you are without substance yet again. I find it amazing that we pray for God to bless us with material things and we use them to shake our fist in his face. We pray for a home, God answers, and we use the home to bring the devil's child to fornicate. Paul declares that among sinners there are none righteous, speaking of the unconverted. Nevertheless, it ought not to be so among saints. Romans 3:10. The lost son enjoyed the blessings of his father for years, and because he thought he deserved them, he really disdained them. He did, like some saints, never connected his inheritance as a blessing from his father. How do you use your blessing as an opportunity to curse God or to cause others to praise him?
Okay, I didn't know I wrote
This in your book. This
that.
in your book.
Okay,
That's pretty good, isn't it?
yeah, that's pretty good. I wish I had wrote that.
Yeah, well, you're not an author. You just simply
Right,
a writer. So
right, I'm not,
if you were an author, then you would have known. But
right.
I like this because it's like, you use some terminology that modern people would understand. And we shake our fist at Jesus. You don't see that image of shaking my fist at Jesus. And that's what we do. We grow up in a house, and we obey the house, but we can't wait to get out of the house. So it's kind of like that little boy who got the cookie and say, I told you not to get that cookie, go stand in the corner. And the little boy said, I'm gonna stand in this corner, but I'm still thinking about that cookie.
Right, yeah. He said, I'm still eating that cookie.
I'm still
Right,
eating.
in his mind, and basically that's what it's all about is reaching the mind of a person. The power of your story. You're trying to connect with the readers uh, uh, that had a shared experience and make so that they won't feel alone in the world. The worst thing people can feel is being alone in the world that nobody has ever gone through this but me. Well,
Right.
now I'm going to tell you my story, and my story has power to it. So a story told well has the power to build empathy and understanding and thereby make others want to do better and to be better.
Hmm.
That's the power of telling your story.
Mm. Well, I like that. I like that because I believe that there's power. I believe that there's somebody waiting on the other side of your story so they can get healing from their story. And if we don't tell it, if we don't tell our stories, if we don't share our stories, then how will one know? How will one know? They have to get it the way they get it, right?
Right. Stories usually you can see stories as mirrors.
Mm-hmm. As mirrors.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because I simply, we had this summit and the summit was she said yes to herself unapologetically. And there were some men on there too who were doing some presentations. One don't you making me yarn now. It's bedtime.
I'm on
Um
I'm on scratching my nose, man.
okay. One of the things that there were so many people who shared their stories and the stories varied, but the whole consensus, there was one lady who shared her story. She spoke 2 days, and the first day she was good. The second day it was like a whole different person that was speaking. So with this person, you could see her as she started to share her story. She is like she remembered some of the things that was going on in her life, and she became angry. And but the more she became, she was like you could see her transform in the midst of her story. And I was like, we're witnessing her breakthrough in the story. And that's what happens when you're sharing your story and what has happened in your life. You can witness somebody's breakthrough if they receive what's being given to them. What do you think about that?
Well, that sounds logical.
You do know that this is a live show.
I said it sounds logical.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Brooks, why do you do what do you like about what you do? You teach, right? You teach Bible study.
Right.
You are listen, let me give a disclaimer to my viewers. So this is Mr. Robert Brooks, and he makes no apologies for who he is. So it doesn't matter to him that this is a live show and it's being broadcast out to a million people. He's just sitting there just unbothered. And Mr.
I'm
Brooks,
engaged.
he's not engaged. And listen, y'all, listen, he's shy. He said he the first time he told me he was shy, I didn't think he was telling the truth because he is such a charismatic person. Prior to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when it's after 3 o'clock, you get what you get.
Okay, I think. Yeah, my throat wisdom shuts down.
So prior to 3 p.m., he's like a child with ADHD. But after 3 p.m., he is like a child with ADHD that has perhaps had some medication. Is that what it is?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Brooks, what are you doing? May I ask?
I think I'm listening to
But
the
you're
show.
supposed to you're supposed to be engaging with me. You're making the show where people are gonna be like, what in the world? Who is this she got on her show?
I thought listening was part of engaging.
No, 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 no. You have to talk, and it's call and response. That's what it is. So we're communicating. We're having to communicate. I want to share another piece from your book. It says we are free to choose. Nevertheless, we can't choose the consequences of our choosing. Listen, there are consequences when we choose right that on the surface seems to be the wrong choice. I'll explain. Bible students remember Joseph. Joseph, you said your favorite Bible character, and the messes he found himself in because he always made the righteous choice. Now, what do you mean by that?
Say that again.
My favorite character, my favorite Joseph, my favorite Bible character, and the messes he found himself in because he always made the righteous choice.
Oh, okay. Well, there's so much meat in that statement. Uh, at one time, it was not hard to find people who wanted to make right choices.
Mm-hmm.
But since we came over, it has become tougher and tougher to find one other person that wants to make right choices. When you make right choices, you are maligned for that. You are ridiculed for making right choices. And Joseph always made the right choice. And and I know why he made the right choice. It's in his story why he made the right choice. Uh, because number one, he chose God first in his life. And if you're going to choose God first, God has to be first.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can't have God and priorities because the word priority is not plural.
Mm-hmm.
It is a single word. Priority means first. Okay. Well, if something is first, there's no second.
That's right.
So we use the term priorities, priorities, plural, but God was his priority, and so anytime you make the right choice, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up on somebody's blacklist, as they call
Mm-hmm.
it, because people don't want to make the right choice because everybody believe what they're doing is the right choice,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's right or not.
Mm-hmm.
And but Joseph always made the right choice. And when you look at his story, if you look at it from a subjective point of view, you would ask yourself the question, why should I make all the right choices? You know, every time I make a right choice, I end up in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know,
Right.
that's a subjective thought. But an objective thought knows that on the other side of the right choice and my suffering for the right choice will, the outcome will be right.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't see the outcome when you make the choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is not normal, so to speak, with human beings to make the right choice.
Mm.
Okay.
You know what? There are people who would dare to differ with you, but you know what? This proves that you can do people will not like you for absolutely no reason at all.
Except making the right choice.
Except making the right choice. They be and your right choice bothers them.
Right.
You know,
Because your right choice says to them, you're wrong.
you're right, and I'm not wrong. I don't want
I'm
to be
not
wrong.
wrong.
I want to do this because it feels good. If you're if
Right.
you're you're among people who are drinking and you don't drink, you wrong. You the wrong person. You
Right.
choose not. You choose because you choose not to. And I like that. Joseph did nothing wrong. His life was full of turmoil, and I think about that with a lot of things that people go through. They've not done anything wrong. They've made the
Right.
right choices. You'll hear them say, I never bothered anybody. I did the right thing. I went to church every Sunday. I did the right thing. And look at all this stuff happening to me.
Uh, Jesus said, paraphrase, if you live right, you will be persecuted in this world.
Yep.
And so because the world, that to the world, there's nothing wrong. Okay. Every choice we make is the right choice.
Hmm.
And you're the oddball out, so to speak.
Right.
Okay. because you won't make the choices that we made. So therefore, that makes you wrong. And I can malign you, I can excoriate you, and all that other stuff
Mhm.
because you keep making right choices, but the right choices that you making ain't right
Mhm.
in our book.
Right.
The choices that we're making, and you're not in a position to tell us that we're wrong in the choices that we make.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so you end up in the far country.
Looking up from the hog pen
Yeah,
with the
smelling like
hogs.
slop.
With now with the what are your when you wrote this book? I always ask people three questions. Why are you writing the story? Why do you want to write a book? Who's your audience and what's your anticipated outcome? So why did you write this book, The Rock Bottom? Why did you write it?
Uh, to get it out of my head.
Okay. All right. All right. That's a good one. That's a good one to get it out your head. And so you could have got it out your head, but why did you choose to publish it?
I didn't.
So how did it get in the book if you didn't publish it?
There's a young lady I know that's very pushy, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe she pushed for at least 3 years.
Pushy? I wouldn't say pushy. I would
Uh,
say encouraging,
okay,
persistent,
okay,
passionate. Because
right.
I saw that the word, or I know you're not talking about me, but if it
No,
were
no,
me,
right.
passionate because she saw the need for this book in the world, because
Uh-huh.
there is a lot of people who need this book. So that's why you wanted to get it out your head. And then, so who is your intended audience? Now that it's out your head, who is this book for?
I didn't have an attended audience when I wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like when I write poem. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have an audience. My best poem is Your Scent.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a person in mind. I
Mm-hmm.
just wrote it. Uh, uh, Rainbow sexuality. Now I
Mm-hmm.
had people in mind, but it wasn't a certain people. Well, male and female. But anyway, so when I wrote Rock Bottom, I didn't have an audience in my head that I wanted to reach
Mm-hmm.
uh, because the I think the book is a neutral audience book,
Right,
which
right.
means that it can fit anyone. Uh,
Right, because the prodigal son could be the prodigal daughter.
right, exactly. And so I didn't have a targeted audience. Now a lot of time when I preach a sermon, I have a targeted audience,
Mm-hmm.
okay, uh, based on where I'm going or where I preach. And so, but with that rock bottom, I didn't necessarily have a targeted audience because I had no idea about trying to publish it, number one. And I
Okay.
guess if you have an idea that you're going to publish something, then you have a targeted audience, but that wasn't my idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, and then, so it's out, and so we got the story out. It has an audience because anybody who finds themselves in the hog pen, or parents who can kind of help their children not steer that way, because it could be something in the parenting as well. So that audience is a broad audience. But so now that the book is out and you do have an audience and people are reading the book, what's your anticipated outcome? What would you like to see happen as a result of this book?
Well, I suppose that I would like to uh, see parents use it to, well, not necessarily. Uh, I wouldn't want anything to happen
Hmm.
because I was about to make a bad statement. I was going to say I would like to see parents use it to try to help their children to stay out of the far country, but we have a Bible for that. That
Hmm.
no human being can write any words that can be better than the Bible to steer people from the far country.
Right.
The Bible is a GPS, God positioning system. uh,
Right.
to put you in the right place at the right time. Uh, so based on that, I don't think that anything, because if I wanted it to do anything, that would be what I would want it to do. That parents may read it and use it to sort of help their children, but they have a Bible for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, now you may read something in my book that may not lead you into the right direction, but you'll never read anything in the Bible that won't lead you in the right direction.
Right. Right.
You know,
And so this would not be replacement reading. This would be just some additional reading, like we're reading, like, you're reading your textbook, or you're reading a magazine, or you're reading for entertainment, but it has really good information that can help you grow your child and you. And you can help it can help you, because one of the things about this book is that it will make you pick up the Bible, because it's spiritually based, and there are scriptures that you need to pick up the Bible to read, to get an understanding, so you can use that tool to go along with the Bible to understand what you're reading.
right? That well, it can be that as well as and also it can. I suppose that the book can uh, give you a 21st century view.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Bible gives you a 21st century view.
Yeah, right.
Because when you read Genesis chapter 6, and it said that it grieved God that he uh, made man, and that the wicked imagination was of man's heart was only evil continued. You think he's talking about 2022.
Right, exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's relevant all the time.
We're not even going to talk about Sodom and Gomorrah.
No, we're not even gonna go there.
Oh,
I mean, you talking about relevant today.
yes, yes, yes. I dare somebody to read the Bible and not find something that they can put in today's time.
Right, exactly,
So,
exactly.
Mr. Brooks, this has been quite an interesting conversation, and I want to tell you thank you so much for coming on to be my guest and just have this conversation. I love the way that you put your words together. I love how you string them together so that they make sense, and I love how you take biblical principles and make them applicable. You can apply them, you should apply them, but when I read things like what you've written here, rock bottom, and I read things like I think you did something called leadership. When I read those nuggets that you have, it makes you think, and you don't have a choice but to go back and pick up the Bible, because let me see what this is talking about. Let me see how this applies, and it intertwines together. So I like that. I really do. I enjoy that, and it's helpful. So if I'm
Well,
a
that's one of the things. One of the things that you said is that I would hope that my book would help people think. That they
Mhm.
read something and they say, I read this in the Bible, but I didn't think about it this way. So
Exactly,
yeah, you know.
exactly. The story, and we're almost out of time, but the story, it's so memorable. And I know the story of the prodigal son left and right, but when you talk about, the prodigal son went to the nightclub and he was drinking his wine and his smoking his wicked wacky weed. Everybody know what wicked wacky weed is, right? Everybody know what
Right.
Mary J. Wanna is. Everybody know what drugs are. Everybody know what that is. So stringing it together is like, oh wow, that reminds me, this is something. I'm in the far country. So I like that. But you know what? It has been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Listen, if you need help with your story, I can help you take your story from a thought to a realization. Don't find yourself at rock bottom. We're almost out of time, and I absolutely love the power of your story because it gives you different insights. And Mr. Brooks, thank you so much. And listen, if you want a copy of, and we don't have it here, if you want a copy of Rock Bottom, you can purchase it through PayPro-V Publishing, and that's payprovpublishing.com. It's also available on Amazon, and we can get the book in your hand. But listen, this will be a great tool to share with your church congregations, with your youth groups, with your women's groups, with your men's groups. It's a reminder for your children. So, with that being said, we will see you next time, next Thursday. So, well, actually, next Thursday is Thanksgiving. So, I don't think we'll be here next Thursday. So, it's been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Better than a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Shoot for the shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll be among the stars. You
I heard that somewhere.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. All right, Mr. Brooks. This has that